Hello, today's discussion is about principle of priority and its limitations. Principle of priority, as I've explained to you before, is one of the principles, one of the six principles of the ICN. And I have explained this before, and today we're going to go into a bit detail with more examples and also find out its limitations. Okay, so why do we have botanical nomenclature? What is the point of having all of those principles and all of those rules, all of those divisions, and the entire code in general? Okay, so we have that botanical nomenclature in order to ensure that one species gets only one name. Okay, in order to avoid all kinds of confusion, we have botanical nomenclature. And let's also ask ourselves this question: how principle of priority helps to achieve that? So let me just take you to the flashback. So actually, a long time ago, it was found out that the number of published names far exceeded the actual number of taxon. Okay, so why was the number of names exceeding? Okay, it was because one plant or one individual was given more than one names. That means several names were given to one plant or one individual. So that is why it became very important to find out a way in order to decide which of those names gets the priority, or which of those names get chosen as the correctly, legitimately published name and one and only name. Okay, so we are going to find that out. So let us go back to the explanation. The principle of priority is stated as the nomenclature of taxonomic group is based upon its priority or publication. So it sounds pretty simple because it simply says whichever name is published first, that gets the priority. So that one will be considered as the correct name. Okay, but it sounds simple, but it is not actually that simple. Okay, so we'll find out with a few examples. So, before I move on to the main topic, I want to explain some terms which will help in your understanding of the topic. Okay, so the first one is synonym. In English, synonym is words that have the same meaning, right? So, similarly, in botany, it means names given to the same plant. Okay, so here one plant will have many names. Those names are called synonyms. Okay, let me give you a very simple example of maize. Okay, now maize, as you know, is Zea maize, given by Linnaeus. This is the author citation in 1753. Okay, and another person named it Zea Curagua Molina in 1782. Okay, then Zea Japonica, given by von Hott in 1867, and so and other names are also given. So basically these three people have called the same plant by three different names. Okay, so since this one given by Linnaeus, Zea maize, is the earliest publication, so it is considered as the correct name, and all of these are considered as synonyms. Okay, so that is a synonym. Okay, one plant, if it has more than one, apart from the correct name, all the other names are called as synonym. Okay, so another term that you must be familiar with is homonym. Now homonym is the complete opposite of synonym. Okay, here one name, when it is given to more than one plant. So here's an example for such a particular plant, that is jujube, which is also called bayer in Hindi. Okay, it was named as Ziziphus jujuba by Miller. Okay, and Mill is an author citation in the year 1768. Okay, and now another person, Lamarck, okay, he also named a related species as Ziziphus jujuba. Okay, so this particular plant was actually different from the one that Miller named, okay, by Lamarck in 1789. Okay, so they later found out that it was a homonym. For such a case where two different plants are given the same name, in that case it's called as homonym. Okay, however, this is selected as the name for that jujuba, and the second plant, this was This was rectified, and then it was named, it was given a different name by Lamarck himself, Sisyphus mauritiana. So I hope you understood the concept of synonym and homonym. Okay, I hope it was clear with that. The other term is tautonym. So tautonym is when the name has identical generic and specific epithet. Okay, so for example, Pearl was earlier named as Malus. Okay, so this is it, that's a tautonym. But in botanical nomenclature, this is not accepted. Okay, tautonyms are not accepted in botanical nomenclature. However, the same is accepted in zoological nomenclature. For example, bison. Okay, zoologists are pretty cool with this tautonym. They have no problem with tautonyms. Okay, and also there's another example. I think cobra is called naja, gorilla, and there are many tautonyms in zoology. It's all accepted in the zoological nomenclature, but it is not accepted in the botanical nomenclature. Okay, so that's it for tautonym. So let's check some examples where principle of priority has been applied, starting with a very simple example. So Nymphia nautilii was given the name by Burn F in 1768, and the same plant was also given Nymphia malabarica by Poyer 1798, and the same plant was also given Nymphia stellata by Wilde in 1799. Also, the same plant was again given by the Acuti loba by D.C. in 1824. Okay, so by applying the principle of priority, we know for certain that this one, Nymphia nautilii, will be considered as the correct name. Okay, because 1768 is the earliest publication of this name for this species. So all the other names will be rejected and they will be considered as synonyms. So this is a pretty simple example. Okay, but there are complex situations also. Okay, so we'll look at that with yet another example. Here's another example which is quite unique. Okay, so Lurio, he described one plant and he named it Phaiscium natans in 1790. Okay, so later on, A.L.D. Jusso, he transferred the genus name to Vallisneria. But unfortunately, for specific epithet, instead of maintaining the name of the specific epithet, he called it Vallisneria physicium. So this is a superfluous name. Later on, independently, different people named them differently. Like Grabinier, he described the same species as Vallisneria gigantea, 1912. And later on, again, the same species was called Vallisneria asiatica by Mickey in 1934. So then later on, Hara, okay, he did his own research and found out that all of these names are synonymous. All of these names are synonymous. Okay, and then they all have described the same plant but have given the different name. Okay, so later on, Hara, he gave a correct name and called it Vallisneria natans. He maintained the generic name as this, and he used the natans from the Physicium. So this name was actually Vallisneria natans, was based on Lore's Physicium natans. Okay, so that is why the author citation can be written as Lore in parenthesis. Okay, because the specific epithet was maintained from Lore, and the one who gave this name, Hara, in 1974. Now if we look here, okay, so this name was considered as correct name. Okay, and all of this name Physicium natans was called the basionym. Basionym means the name on which the correct name is based on. Okay, so you can see that it is the oldest name, then comes 1826, then comes 1912, then 1934, and finally 1974. It is the most recently dated name. Okay, but even then it is considered as the correct name because it is legitimate, it is validly published. Okay, but all of these are not. This is the basionym. Now Vallisneria physicium, now this is a superfluous name. And then these two are synonyms. Here principle of priority is applied, but even then the most recent name has been given the priority. Okay, because all of the names that was given earlier did not fit into the criteria. So similarly, there are many examples of that. But now we are moving on to the limitations of principle of priority. Okay, on what cases or on what situations this principle of priority will not be applied. So first limitation is the starting date of principle of priority. Now, for there are different dates for different organisms. As I've told you before, the starting date for for the application of principle of priority is 1st of May 1753. Okay, so this is for vascular plants. So why this date is kept as the starting date is because this is the date when Carl Linnaeus's Species Plantarum was published. So if any vascular plant which is described and published before this date, that will not be considered for priority. Okay, so but after 1st of May 1753, whatever organism's name has been described and published, that will be considered for priority. Okay, so similarly there are different dates for different group of plants. For example, Moses starting date is 1st of January 1801, and fungi is 31st of December 1801, fossils 31st of December 1820. So these organisms have their own date. And also for suprageneric names, that means taxa that is above the rank of genera, the starting date is 4th of August 1789. Why? Because it is the date of publication of De Jussos Genera Plantarum. The second limitation is that principle of priority cannot be applied above the family rank, which means that only the family rank and below the principle of priority is applied. Okay, it does not apply above. Okay, so the third limitation is that the principle of priority is not applicable outside the rank. When we are choosing a correct name for a taxon, then the names of epithets available at that rank needs to be considered. When a correct name at that rank is not available, in that case only a combination can be made from using the epithet from another rank. Okay, so here is one example of Campanula section, the rank 1810. Now this rank is given in section. So when they are transferring this particular organism into the generic level, into the genus level, then the correct name will not be Campanopsis. Now Campanopsis will not be the correct name because this particular name has been already used in the rank section. So this particular name again, it cannot be used in genus. Okay, so instead of Campanopsis, okay, now author citation, if it was Campanopsis, then author citation would be RBR in bracket and then KUNTZE, the new person who proposed the name. So instead of this name, this has to be the name would be Wahlenbergia Roth. 1821. Now, just this particular plant, this particular variety section, Campanula section Campanopsis, is being transferred into the generic level, or is being upgraded into the generic level. So the whole point is that since Campanopsis name has already been used in the section rank, it cannot be again be used in the genus rank. Okay, that's why this usage of Campanopsis is wrong. So Wahlenbergia would be the right choice. Okay, so this similar example. Now this particular species, Magnolia virginiana, variety Fotida, given by Linnaeus in 1753. Now when this is upgraded into the specific rank, into the rank of the species, okay, then in that case, it will not be called Magnolia Fotida. Okay, since this particular name has already been used in the variety rank, variety level. Okay, so that is why this would be wrong, because you cannot put it in the specific rank, in the rank of the species, in the specific epithet. You cannot use the same name that is being used in the variety name. Okay, that is why a new name has to be given, which is Magnolia grandiflora. This would be considered as a correct name. So the limitation is nomina conservanda. So nomina conservanda, it literally means that a name is to be conserved, even though it violates the rules of priority. So, what happened was that because of the strict application of the principle of priority, so there was a lot of changes in the name. Okay, so the name change was so widespread. Okay, and it led to a lot of confusion. Okay, so in order to not lead into confusion, well-known families or genera for which people were very used to with that, and people were comfortable using those names. Okay, and even those names, those families, big families. Okay, so because of if principle of priority was strictly applied to those, then everything would be chaotic. Okay, that is why it was a special provision for some families and genus. Okay, through which, even though they violate the principle of priority, even though they have not been published prior, okay, even then their names have been conserved. Okay, so here's one example, like this TAC, it's the T family. Okay, so TAC was given by Didon in 1825. Okay, so although the family of Turnstromyces was given by Murby in 1813. Even though this one is prior, okay, because of nomina conservanda, TAC has been selected as the correct family name and not Turnstromyces. Okay, so nomina conservanda was kind of like a provision, okay, to avoid excessive name changes. Okay, and there are many such examples. You can read it from the notes. So nomina conservanda was all about conserving the names of family and genus even when it violated the rules of priority. Okay, so the fifth limitation is conservation of names of species. Okay, so botanists had this thing going after the application of principle of priority. The names kept on changing frequently. Okay, if today they find out that a certain name is actually prior, and then tomorrow they can find out that no, this was not the one, the name prior to that was even prior. Okay, so because of that frequent name changes, agricultural botanists and horticulturists were, as it is written in the book, disgusted with those kind of activities, because they were facing a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. Okay, so then they proposed to conserve the name of certain plant species, as in even though the species are not keeping up with the principle of priority, they need to be conserved. Okay, so one classic example is Triticum aestivum. Yeah, so this is, as you know, a quite agriculturally popular crop. Okay, so this is not actually the correct name of the common wheat. Okay, but even then this is conserved and this is accepted as the correct name. In case of Triticum aestivum and Triticum hibernum, according to all the rules of the code, okay, Triticum hibernum should have been selected, okay, but since the use of Triticum aestivum was so popular and so common that people wanted to conserve this name, they were in favor of conserving this name, even though this name was not keeping up with the rules of the code, okay. So that is why this is one example of conservation of names of species. So here's another example of conservation of name of species. It's of a tomato. Okay, so actually the earliest name given for tomato was by Linnaeus, and he called it Solanum lycopersicum. Linnaeus, 1753. Okay, so later on, Karsten, he made a name change and called it date 1882. Okay, so but this is lycopersicum, same name, so it becomes a tautonym, so it is not accepted by the botanical nomenclature. But even then, Nicholson, he gave a orthographic variation of that. Okay, so he suggested to call it lycopersicon. Lycopersicum is practically not a tautonym because there is a variation in spelling, which is also called as orthographic variation. Okay, it's no longer a tautonym, but it is accepted as a correct name. This lycopersicum is potentially a correct name, but at that time, Lycopersicon esculentum was so widely used, okay, was so widely used that people favored that this particular name be conserved, even though it was published much later. But because of the name of the popularity of the name, this Lycopersicon esculentum is favored for the name of tomato. Okay, so like this, Triticum aestivum and Lycopersicon esculentum, okay, these two names, and along with so many other species, it has been conserved even though they do not follow the principle of priority. Okay, so this is it for today. Okay, I hope you found this video useful.